So, for the past few days, I have been trying to adopt Arch Linux, and I must say I'm quite happy with my decision. I have always been using Fedora. In case you don't know, Fedora is an operating system based on, of course, Linux, and it is very similar to Red Hat. And Red Hat is the company behind Fedora. And I have always been using Fedora for my machines. Fedora has been my main operating system, my main driver for many years. But for the past few months, I was thinking of trying something different. I was quite happy with Fedora. I'm still using Fedora on some of my machines, but I do have one ThinkPad and one more laptop that I want to basically use uh, for doing something really quickly. Fedora is not really the fastest operating system on those two old machines, and I anyways want to relearn few things that I learned long back. Things like customizing Linux distribution based on your needs. And after doing some research online, and of course, I already know quite a lot about various distributions, I decided to choose Arch Linux. And the good thing about Arch Linux is that when you install Arch Linux, you basically get nothing but a terminal. So after you finish the installation, you will be presented with a terminal, and then it is up to you really how you want to configure it. So you have to install basic tools like editor. For example, if you use VI, I use Emacs, so I installed Emacs along with Nano, and there is no window manager. So if you need a window manager, which I believe you need, especially if you're doing something in 2020, if you're online, you might need a browser as well. So having this window manager is always great, and I basically used a window manager called as DWM, and it is amazing. Again, when you install DWM, don't expect wonderful things straight away. You will get a window manager which is really great, and it has like tiling support out of the box. I made a video on this particular topic, how to configure DWM and the basics of DWM. I'm still doing it, but you have to customize it. And the way it works is that you have to basically modify the source code and generate your own. You have to basically compile it again, and you have to use your own code. You have to build it again from source, and then you will have changes applied. For example, if you want to change the color, or maybe you want some further shortcuts, so you have to modify the source code. And I quite love that because I can only focus on things that I need on my laptop. So what I was doing for the past few days, I basically used my beloved ThinkPad X220, and I started installing various things on it. Of course, I started with Arch Linux. I was not able to boot after the installation, but it was due to the fact that the bootloader file has to be in a specific directory with a specific name. So it was kind of hard coded, which I did, and then I was able to boot. I then installed basic programs. I then installed Window Manager, and I have been configuring it. To be honest, installation process took me just 10 minutes, maybe 20, but I am still configuring it for the past 4 or 5 days, and it is great because I'm only doing things that I really need, and it is working wonderfully well so far. Of course, it is Linux, so I'm not really worried about getting things done. But to get things done the way you want, you have to customize it. For example, if you want to display a date on the status bar, so there is a status bar, you have to modify files. You have to use your own RC files to add date on the status bar. You have to make sure that you run your own scripts in the background for updating the time. And you have to also make sure that in case you want to display, let us say, the brightness, you have to look uh, for the brightness level of your laptop screen, or maybe if you want to display the battery or whatever else you want to display, maybe you want to display the weather, you can do that, but you have to modify quite a lot of things to get it done. And the whole idea behind Arch Linux is that you basically end up with your own distribution because you will do a lot of customizations. One recommendation is that if in case you're trying to do the same thing with Arch Linux, keep a repository of your configurations somewhere safe. The best thing that you can do is to basically have a Git repository. What I have been doing is I have been recording my progress and whatever configuration I'm doing in a blog post. So if you go to linuxindia.com, India with Y, not I, uh, and if you go to the blog section, you will find one blog called Install Arch Linux on ThinkPad X220. So in case you have a ThinkPad, which which I think is still a great option even in 2020, and in case you also want to install Arch Linux, then if you follow this particular blog post, hopefully it will help you. The purpose of the blog post is not to share the configuration files. Of course, you can take a look at the configuration files, but the idea is to share the progress and to basically take you on this journey where you can learn Linux and you can customize things the way you want, and you can learn a lot about how Linux works, how you can configure it, how you can customize it. Of course, you can install Ubuntu, which I never really used, honestly. But in case you want to install, let's say, Fedora, for example, things will work straight away. You don't have to worry about, I mean, if you want to learn Linux, you don't have to go hard way. I still recommend that in case you are totally a new, in case you're a beginner, in case you have never really worked on Linux, in case you want to learn Linux, Arch Linux might not be a great option in the beginning because it requires and it will expect you to know few things. You need to have some basic understanding of how Linux works before you can start using Arch Linux. So Arch Linux should be in your list. It can be in your list in case you want to uh, in case you want to learn Linux by getting your hands really, really, really dirty. You can still do a lot of things with Fedora. You can get your hands a lot dirty even with other distributions, but when it comes to Arch Linux, you understand each and everything step by step. So you take baby steps. For example, as I mentioned before, when you install Arch Linux, you get just a terminal. But then you have to install the window manager. Then you have to configure the shortcuts yourself. So you basically do everything yourself to basically get a system that works for you. And that is the whole idea. And that is the whole idea behind learning and, of course, having a lot of fun at the same time. So do take a look at my blog post, and in case you want to learn and do the same thing, I'm also making a lot of videos on Arch Linux. In case you want to, uh, in case you are into videos, in case you don't want to read the blog post, but I still recommend you to read the blog post, so you can of course copy and paste the commands. So that is all I wanted to talk about in this podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening to this podcast and you also learned something new today. Thank you very much.